you know, all you have to do, if you're one mindful to this moment, all you have to do is suffer just this one moment, right? So I think being one mindful can actually also decrease stress, decrease anxiety, decrease a sense of overwhelmed, overworked feelings that we get. And our effectiveness goes up. It's a win-win, okay? Effectiveness. Effectiveness. So how do I observe? How do I describe? How do I participate? One, mindfully, non-judgmentally, and with effectiveness, effectively. What's the root word of effectiveness? Effect. Good. What's another word for effect? Because this is what I say to my clients. Another word for effect would be what? Result. Good. Outcome, change, it's up there, I know. So, yeah, so like that's what I want my clients to focus on first is knowing what objective they want. Like what outcomes do they want to see? What change do you want to have happen? What are your goals? Once I know my objective, once I know the outcome I want to see happen, I'm going to try my best to be as effective as possible getting those results met. Getting the change I want to see. It's all about being effective and doing what works. Like that's really what effectiveness means, is do what works. But what gets in the way of doing what works and just focusing on that is focusing on what? Who's right versus who's wrong. Recently I got pulled over. My wife got pulled over, actually. I was driving with her. And a state cop pulls us over. And I said to my wife, what are you doing? What happened? She goes, I don't know. I wasn't speeding. I was going the speed limit. And I'm like, okay. She rolls the window down. State cop comes walking up. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Officer so-and-so. Driver's registration, proof of insurance, please. She gets her driver's license out, hands it to the police officer. I open up the glove compartment to get the registration and proof of insurance. I found the proof of insurance, but my registration card was out of my vehicle, and I'm looking for it. And I'm like, damn, I know it's here, I know it's here. So then I looked at the officer as I'm looking. I said, so what was the problem today, officer, that you pulled us over for? He goes, your windows are illegal tint. And I looked at him, I said, no, they're not. And he goes, yes, they are. I'm like, no, I said, I had them professionally done, and the guy who did it said these are perfectly legal here in the state of Michigan. So they're legal tint. He goes, no, they're illegal tint, and for it to become legal, it needs to have a 4-inch strip of non-tint on the front passenger and driver's side window. I said, so you're telling me for this to be legal, I have to have a 4-inch strip at the top where it's not tint? He goes, that's correct. I said, you know what, I've never heard of that. He goes, well, that's the law. And I said, well, the guy at the shop told me this is perfectly legal. He goes, did you find your registration, sir? And I'm like, I'm looking for it. And he goes and checks us out. And I'm tearing the damn car up, you know, like trying to find this registration. He comes back, and he said, you guys have any idea why I pulled you over today? And I said, because you're saying that the tint's illegal. He goes, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He goes, I'm only going to give you a warning, okay, for the window tint being illegal. Make sure you get your registration and put it in your car. Have a nice day. Drive safe. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Because you know where I was about to go with this guy? Keep arguing. And I was going to keep trying to argue that he was wrong, I was right. I wouldn't do things purposefully illegal, obviously. So he's going to say I'm wrong, and he's going to write me a ticket. And I'm like, no, you're wrong, I'm right. So I was about to do this thing with him, and if I would have kept doing that without admitting he was right, I was wrong, he would have done what, you think? Not just for the window, but what else? The registration. And he could have made my life that much more difficult. Because really, he could have had me like out of the car and impounded my car for no registration in my vehicle. That's the law. I mean, he could do that. So my point of telling you this is that sometimes you got to admit you're what? Wrong when you're right. If that's what's going to take to be effective and get the result you want, do it. Don't cut off your nose to what? To spite your face. And I was almost going there. Let go of what's fair versus unfair. I think a lot of us get caught up in that. You know, we get caught up in this fair, unfair thing, and then our actions show that this isn't fair, and we become less effective. You know, we get further away from doing what works, you know, getting our goals, just focusing on our goals and getting them met, you know. So sometimes I think the best thing to do is just let that go. Focus on doing what works. Be effective. Playing by the rules is effective. Would you agree? And we all have rules to follow, I tell my clients. You know, I have certain set of rules that I have to follow. We all have similar rules we have to follow. And being effective in life means following the rules. I mean, rules are not made to be broken, okay? And I think the biggest thing that drives our effectiveness down, I tell my clients, is when we get focused too much on our anger and vengeance. Like an eye for an eye kind of thing. Or when we get caught up in our people doing us wrong and we want to get even with that person, or we get so wrapped up in our anger about what's going on. And this is especially hard when you have like justified anger. You know what I mean? When your anger is justified. You know, when you are in a lot of pain or you have a very important goal being blocked and you have justified anger and you have a right to be angry on a matter of principle, but sometimes the best thing to do is do what? Let it go. Focus on being more effective. Hard skill. But that skill is needed most when it's the most difficult to do. Agree? Yep.
You found some effective ways to help people do that. That's what I find.
Yeah, I find that first it's helping them examine what they're doing is not working for them first. You might have every valid reason and every justified reason to do what you're doing and say what you're saying and feeling what you're feeling, but at the end of the day, is it getting you the outcomes, the results that you want? No? Okay. So let's talk about what might be more effective then. And just validate your anger. Say to yourself, you have a right to be angry. That's true. At the same time, we need to be effective with our anger. The old Dr. Phil saying, how's that working for you? You know, how's that going? It's not working. She's still not listening to me. Well, let's focus on being more effective. What will work? Let's do that. At the same time, maintaining your self-respect. At the same time, having others respect you as well through what you're doing. All right, so repeat after me. Observe is to just notice. Let's try it again. Observe is to just notice. Describe just the facts. Participate, throw yourself in. Non-judgmental stance, things are neither good nor bad. One mindful, one thing at a time. Effectiveness, do what works. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach each other, pick one what skill and one how skill. So what skills are what? Observe, describe, participate. How? Non-judgmental stance, one mindful, effectiveness. So pick one what and one how skill to teach to your partner, okay? So I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time to teach, and then we'll ring the bowl 3 times to end, okay? And again, please give each other feedback as well, all right? So your feedback ought to be something different than you did a good job, right? So be descriptive with your feedback. Okay, so go ahead, partner up, and get the teaching, and I'll be around listening to see how it's going. I want to make sure you guys are getting feedback too from your partner. So make sure you're giving each other some solid feedback to help learning, help facilitate learning. So, all right, that I have to say is by far the most difficult module to teach since I've been teaching skills are the core mindfulness skills. These here are probably the easiest skills to teach, the stress tolerance skills. Need to be easy. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you teach these? Are these one day at a time?
So I teach the observe skills in one session and the how skills in another session.
Wait, observe, then describe?
Observe, describe, participate in one session.
Okay.
And then the how skills, the non-judgmental stance, one mindful effectiveness in another session. Yeah, the actual breakdown is in Marsha's manual.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. I usually teach Wise Mind by itself in one class, okay? I give like an overview of mindfulness as one class, Wise Mind one, what skills one, how skills one. So typically in there 4 sessions, okay? Okay, the stress tolerance skills. Crisis survival, real basic crisis survival techniques. This is like crisis survival skills. We're teaching clients when they get into a crisis, instead of resorting to behaviors that makes your crisis worse, which is what they typically do in crisis, that fuels this unrelenting crisis for them. We want to teach them how to tolerate more effectively. Crisis is inevitable, agree? We're going to get into a crisis from time to time. And so what we want to do is teach clients how to tolerate this crisis when it comes up. This won't solve your crisis. These are not, problem-solving skills. Because if you can solve your crisis, you don't need to tolerate it. So, solve it and it's over. But if you can't solve it, here are the skills that you want to go to, okay? The first skill we'll talk about is a skill called distract with Wise Mind accepts. Look, make no mistake about it. Marsha Linehan, Dr. Linehan, who invented DBT, loves acronyms, okay? Lots of acronyms in skills training, all right? The acronym here is the words accepts. And these are all different ways to distract one's attention from the situation, from the crisis, okay? One basic rule of thumb when it comes to emotion regulation is this, that in order to regulate your emotions, you have to first learn how to control your attention, okay? So getting in control of your attention is really important when it comes to emotion regulation. So one way to get in control of your attention is to distract your attention from the crisis. Like my ability to solve problems decreases in crisis anyway, because my emotions are high, my ability to think decreases, think effectively decreases. So sometimes the best thing to do is distract myself from this crisis for a while, and then come back to it later and try to solve it. Okay. A is activities. The idea here is try to find an activity that's strenuous enough that commands your attention. That where you can't think of your crisis and do this activity like at the same time. Because this activity is strenuous enough that it commands your full attention. Like what are some examples of activities that can distract your attention when you're in crisis? What are some things you can do? What's that?
Climb down off the building.
Yes, that would be effective.
It's not strenuous, but I can't do Sudoku while thinking about.
I think that's strenuous on your mind. Yeah.
Strain, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like physical, like body-wise, but it could be like your mind. It could be strenuous with your mind. So Sudoku, cleaning, like deep cleaning, like real rigorous scrubbing. Yeah, good. What else? Tennis. Or working out, right? Getting active and working out. Going for a real brisk walk, right? Like speed walking. What else?
Babysitting.
Yeah, babysitting. Nice. What else? I like video games. So I might, grab myself my video game controller and find a game that's really intense, and kind of throw my attention into that for a little while, okay? Distract me from worrying about this or that, all right?